In this video, I want to show you all promising underdogs, the best inexpensive favorites, and the best bets to consider for this weekend. I'll also provide my final probability for each fighter's victory, along with their stat differentials. If you find this informative, helpful, or entertaining, please like and subscribe. It really helps keep me motivated to create these videos for you all. I've also added my Patreon information in the description if you want to support me there. There's a $10 a month contribution tier and a $20 a month premium tier. The premium tier gives you early access to all of the analysis and results from my videos, along with the additional data analysis and stats. This includes my prediction model results, fighter history, stat overviews, promising underdogs, best inexpensive favorites, prop bets to consider, and deep dives into each fighter's record and historical fights. So you'll get to see their strengths, their weaknesses, their consistency across different stats, and their stat comparisons versus all of their historical opponents' averages. All of this combined will help you with your picks and bets. There's a $20 a month tier, which is around $5 per event, and you can also purchase each of these separately, but the membership is cheaper and easier. Plus, you're directly helping with the improvement and expansion of the content for this channel. Running this data, analysis, and prediction models takes hours every day and week, so I'd greatly appreciate any support that you can show. And thank you to everyone who has shown me support recently. Also, if you like detailed breakdowns and predictions, I do those weekly for full cards as well, including prelim fights, so feel free to check those out on my channel. Let's go ahead and jump right in. UFC 314 is tomorrow, guys, and if you haven't already checked out my prediction video from earlier this week, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's a full-on logical analysis, data analysis, and even a non-statistical analysis, just everything you pretty much need in preparations for these fights. In this particular video, we're going to go over the most promising underdogs that have the highest potential for pulling off upsets, because I know you guys like hunting for those opportunities, so I love pointing them out for you guys. I'm also going to go over the favorites that I feel pretty confident in, that I don't think are too expensive, and then lastly I'm going to go over bets that I logically think are going to happen, and I'm also going to give you some neutral bets where, you know, if you're kind of on the edge with both fighters and you think one or the other might win, I'm going to give you some opportunities to play it a little bit neutral, play a little bit safe based on logic, statistics, and stylistic factors. You guys know what I do, and if in case you're new, please go ahead and subscribe and like. The information I go over will most likely help you out in one way or another. I guarantee it. So first, let's go over the most promising underdogs. The absolute most promising underdog on this card, in my opinion, is going to be Diego Lopes. So let's start with him. Diego Lopes in this matchup has a height advantage of 5 inches against Alexander Volkanovski. He's also 6 years younger. Keep in mind, he's only 30. Volkanovski is 36. Diego also has a reach advantage of 1 inch. He has a 3% better takedown accuracy, and he lands 2.6 more submissions on average. Now, all things considered, statistical and non-statistical, I ended up giving Diego Lopes a 42% probability of victory, and that gives him a pretty high probability of pulling off an upset. Now, full disclaimer, I still went with Alexander Volkanovski. As you can see on your screen, I'm giving Volk a 58% probability of victory, all things considered. But I think Diego Lopes has a lot of potential, especially if you're looking for those opportunities. So let's talk about his record first. Now, Diego Lopes, he's had 26 fights, right? He's finished 85% of those, and that's a huge reason why he's soaring up. Now, recently, he's been on an absolute tear. He's won 5 of his 6 last fights, and of course, he's on a 5-fight win streak. Extremely impressive rise, especially with the guys he's faced. Now, the last time he lost was back in May of 2023, so it's been a while since Diego Lopes has faced a loss. But let's talk about his stylistic things that can really feed into him pulling off an upset if you guys are going for him. I do see a lot of potential in Diego Lopes. First of all, it's going to be his BJJ experience. Now, keep in mind, this guy is a black belt with a lot of grappling accolades. I mean, he has like 12-ish submission wins, right? And he has those arm bars, those knee bars, those triangle chokes on his record, which are absolutely deadly. And he's very dangerous from the bottom position. And, you know, this fight can get a little bit scrappy. And if he ends up there, I could see him taking a little bit of an advantage there. He can utilize those transitions and some of that offensive grappling he does really well, and he uses that frequently to threaten a lot of his opponents. Now, another thing about Diego Lopes is that he does have a lot of striking power. I mean, this guy really is like a Swiss Army knife. He has a lot of things in his back pocket, and he knows when to pull them out. He has like 10 knockout victories or so, and he's very aggressive with his boxing style, and that really just is complemented beautifully with his calf kicks that are extremely effective. And so he has like this balance of power and technique, and that just makes him deadly, especially with his balance in striking and grappling. He's also an aggressive fighter. I mean, he's not just someone who likes to take points and take it to the judges. I mean, he's looking for the finish in any way that he can get it. He's young, he's hungry, and that's really good. Now, there's also a physical advantage in general, and I touched based on that when I was reviewing some of the stats on these guys, but he's 5'11". He has a great reach, too, almost 73 inches, and that's going to be a little bit testy for Volk. Now, when we take a look at Alexander Volkanovski, I mean, I covered a lot of his strengths in my previous video, but just to kind of recap, the guy is very well-rounded. I mean, he's one of the most versatile fighters when it comes to MMA, right? He's a great striker, he's a great wrestler, great BJJ even. I mean, he's a black belt in that too. He has a lot of knockouts, he even has a few submissions. He even has some decision victories. It's insane, right? He's also very precise with his strikes. He puts a lot of pressure on his opponents. He closes the distance effectively. Even as a small guy, he lands a ton of times and he lands hard. And that's kind of because of his build. He has this longish reach and he uses it very, very well. And whenever it comes to wrestling, he's also very dominant. I mean, keep in mind, this guy is a former national wrestling champion. He's also a former rugby player. And if you know anything about rugby, those guys do not play. They're freakishly strong. And obviously, Alexander Volkanovski feeds into that as well. He has crazy good ground and pound, good cardio, good durability. He was just built to fight, honestly. And so just keep in mind, when you look at Diego Lopes, he has great grappling on him. He has improving striking constantly, aggressive striking. But Alexander Volkanovski has that experience. Who's going to win? Ultimately, we find out tomorrow. I'm thinking Alexander Volkanovski, but I definitely wanted to highlight the value that Diego Lopes brings to the table. If you guys are looking for some opportunity, you know, willing to roll the dice a little bit, looking for that risk to reward ratio, Diego Lopes is very interesting. Now, the next promising underdog that I want to cover for you guys that has a lot of potential to pull off a crazy upset tomorrow is going to be Michael Chandler. Now, that shouldn't be too much of a surprise either. Michael Chandler, we'll talk about his stylistic benefits here. First, let's just break down the stats. Now, he has a 3% better striking defense than Paddy does. He lands 0.7 more takedowns on average than him. He has a 12% better takedown accuracy, and he has an 11% better takedown defense. Now, keep that in mind with Paddy's style. Now, all things considered, I did give Michael Chandler a pretty low 36% probability of victory, but if I know anything about MMA, if you have anywhere above 33%, as an underdog or as someone that people aren't really thinking is going to win, that's actually a very good percentage of opportunity. Anything less than that 33% mark, you know, you're probably risking a little bit more than likely what's going to happen. But anyone above that 33% going right to that 49%, it's the sweet spot that I've seen really reward people whenever it comes to like that risk to reward ratio. So let's talk about his record, right? Michael Chandler, he's won 23 fights in his professional fighting career. He's finished 78% of those. Now, he's had 6 fights in the UFC, all very entertaining, very electric, and very fun to watch. He's only won 2 of those. So that's one thing that I do want to give you guys a disclaimer of, and that did feed into my decision to knock him down a little bit in terms of the percentage, but that doesn't take away from what Michael Chandler brings to the table. Now, recently, I will say his momentum hasn't been amazing. He's only won 1 of his last 5 fights. In fact, he's coming off of 2 back-to-back losses, but keep in mind, Michael Chandler is someone who has come into this promotion. He's facing very high-level talent. He's risking it, putting it all on the line. This guy does not age. I know he's 38, but if you look at him, he's freakishly athletic. He's very, very powerful and strong, and he does have a huge opportunity of just pulling off random upsets. He does it very, very well. But what I really want to focus on and highlight for you guys is what this guy does well whenever it comes to a stylistic, just the way his fights play out, what he does very well. So first thing, and this is it's not surprising with Iron Mike, it's going to be his explosive power in his striking. A lot of that is just because of the way that the guy is literally built and the way he trains. He has a wide back, right? He's short, he's stout, he has a wide back, he has a wide chest, very, very built. So what comes with those muscles, if you know the human anatomy, it's going to be a lot of explosive power. It's going to be great striking, and that's exactly why he's known for his knockout power. I mean, he has 11-ish or so wins by knockout, and I think he has like 13 first-round finishes. The guy's insane. I mean, he's built for these like short bursts of aggression, and he has that powerful hook as well, and those overhands. We love to see it. I mean, it's very exciting watching this guy fight. And also, he has really good body kicks as well. He just mixes it all together. He also mixes in some takedowns as well. It just keeps his opponents off balance, keeps them guessing. Very, very fun fighter. He also has a great wrestling background. Keep in mind, this guy is a 4-time NCAA Division I All-American wrestler. So Michael Chandler, he definitely is great whenever it comes to controlling those grappling exchanges. And whenever he does get those takedowns, he sets them up with these crazy striking, these crazy like flurries of shots, right? And then he dominates with the ground and pound, and that stuff really wears on you as a fighter. So not only that, but keep in mind, I said this guy's 38. He's had a ton of fights, right? So his experience is definitely an asset to his game. Throughout his fight, he's had multiple title fights in his Bellator professional fighting career, and then the UFC as well. So his ability to kind of recover from that kind of adversity and just go through that experience, he's used to all that pressure is all I'm trying to say. He's used to that relentless pace, and he is a very dangerous fighter. It doesn't matter how skilled you are. Michael Chandler always has that ability to just put you out at any moment. And he has great grappling control as well. I mean, his specialty is that top control, right? And then he just does these damaging strikes inside the guard. And he's very good at submissions as well. I mean, he has that guillotine and those rear naked chokes. You just got to be careful of him. When you take a look at Paddy Pimblett, now I am going for Paddy Pimblett. I ended up giving him a 64% probability of victory. And all things considered, that's not extremely high, right? Anything around that 70% mark or above, that's where a lot of confidence comes in. But 64 isn't extremely high, so I don't want you guys to get it confused. There is a good chance that Michael Chandler could come in and just completely shock us. Now here's what Paddy Pimblett does well. He's very dynamic whenever it comes to his grappling. Keep in mind, Paddy Pimblett, I know a lot of people don't know this, but he's a second-degree black belt in BJJ. He has 10 submission wins or so. He's very creative. Like, he has those flying triangles, just very crazy stuff, right? He's very fluid whenever it comes to his transitions in grappling, and he looks for that back control very quickly, and even submissions when he's like in those weird scrambles and stuff. So he does that. But not only that, if you take a look at his fights throughout his career, he has improved his striking, and that is very important. Now he needs some more work. I'm not gonna lie. Paddy Pimblett does need some more work. He does need to make things a little bit more technical. He needs to be a little bit more disciplined as well, just in general, because we see him gain a bunch of weight and kind of let himself go in between camps, and then all of a sudden he dials in. I get that he dials in and gets lean. It is what it is. He's enjoying life. No hate to the guy. But that does have an effect on your physique. Compared to Michael Chandler, who year-round, the guy just stays very athletic and shredded. It's just part of his lifestyle. And that discipline being part of your lifestyle, I mean, I could talk about this for like 40 minutes in a row. It's very, very important for your mental strength, your resilience, and your physical strength, guys. You want that in your life. You want that consistency. And so that is a dangerous thing about Paddy, I will say. But anyways, just kind of going back to what Paddy does well, his striking, it has improved over time. I mean, he's done better, and we've seen it in his record. He's gotten more knockouts, especially recently. He has those powerful kicks, and, he has those knees whenever it comes to those clinch exchanges. So he's pretty versatile on the feet, and he's just getting better. He's also young. Like, maybe I'm giving this guy too much heat. He's only 30 years old. Most guys in MMA, or at least in the UFC, they reach their prime at about 33-ish, right? Give or take. Paddy's only 30. I mean, he's very young, and he's continuing to climb up very quickly. And he's also adaptable as a fighter. I mean, even in the middle of the fights, he is one of those fighters that is able to figure out what's going wrong and how to adapt pretty quickly. And again, I will emphasize his clinch game is very good. All things considered, I'm thinking that Paddy Pimblett logically gets it done. But to highlight opportunities for you guys, Michael Chandler is not a bad pick. Now, real fans of MMA know exactly why I'm going to say what I'm about to say. But the next promising underdog that I need to highlight for you guys, it's going to be Dan 50K freaking Ige. And trust me when I say this, I know that some of you that are kind of new to MMA or the UFC in general, you're not going to understand this. But those of you that have been watching Dan Ige, you know why the heck this guy's called 50K. You know the upsets that this guy pulls off, and you know the power that he packs. I mean, it's definitely ahead of his division. So let's kind of talk about his strengths here. Now, Dan Ige, statistically, he absorbs about 0.7 less strikes per minute, and he lands 0.36 more takedowns on average. I ended up giving him a 42% probability of victories. The prediction models actually liked him more. They gave him a 44% probability of victory. I had to normalize that just a little bit because you do have to consider recency of some of the stats and stuff like that. I did my research, guys. I ended up giving 42%, but keep in mind what I said. anything above that 33% mark is a decent opportunity. And when you take a look at it, Sean Woodson, he has a 58% probability of victory. You guys do the math. Roll the dice where you think it's necessary, but I do see some opportunity with Dan Ige getting it done, especially with what I've seen from Ige in the past. And here's the thing. If Dan Ige is stepping in on short notice and trying to replace a fighter, that's one thing. But on a prepared camp and doing a full camp and just being ready, that's a different animal that Dan Ige is. I'm not going to take that away from him. So first, let's take a look at his record before I go into the good things that he does within fights, the non-statistical things. So Dan Ige, he's won 18 fights, right? And he's finished about 61% of those. He's had 18 fights within the UFC. I need you guys to just take a second in that. 18 fights in which he's had experience with different kind of opponents with different strengths. He's won 10 of those 18 fights. More than half of those he's won and proved himself. And you know each fight gets harder and harder. That's just the way it goes, right? Now, recently he hasn't done the best, but keep in mind context is necessary because one of the fights he was stepping in on short notice, blah, blah, blah. He's won 2 of his last 5 fights. He is coming off of 2 losses here. I will acknowledge that. But I do want to highlight the opportunity that he brings to the table based on his style. Now, the thing that you need to know about Dan Ige, if you haven't really studied his fights, or if you want to go back and you're just wondering what his strengths are, in summary, it's going to be his very powerful boxing, especially within the close range. He does very, very well closing the distance on guys and landing some very heavy shots in the pocket, particularly like those uppercuts that he has and some of those overhand punches. The only other fighter that kind of comes to mind immediately with this same strength, it's going to be Dustin Poirier. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, you guys know what I'm talking about. Poirier is great at closing the distance, just getting in the pocket and really laying it on his opponents, right? Guys like Justin Gaethje, they're more like brawlers, so they swing heavily. But then you have those boxers that close the distance. They have the perfect balance between technique and power. And that's going to be your guys like Dan Ige and Dustin Poirier. And so this guy, not only does he do that, but he's also just a durable and tough dude. I mean, he's very durable and tough. He's barely been finished in his career, and he pushes his opponents to the scorecard sometimes. He learns from his losses. Trust me, this guy has the ability to put out his opponents if he gets close and if he keeps it dangerous. Now, the reason why I did kind of go for Sean Woodson at the end of the day, just logically, it's going to be a lot of it has to do with Sean Woodson's frame itself and how he uses it to his advantage. Also, Woodson's one of those guys that just pours it on his opponents, right? With a lot of accuracy too. He has good defensive skills. He has a very creative kicking game, and he's coming off with a lot of momentum into this fight compared to Ige. And so really this fight is going to be extremely interesting to me as someone who's kind of a technical analyst or just a fighting nerd style guy, right? It's your range versus your close combat matchup. You have Woodson, who's going to aim to use his reach advantage to really keep Ige afar and just pick him apart with his jabs, his kicks, and his combinations. And then on the other side, you have Ige, who's going to be hunting, chasing after him, looking to close the gap relentlessly and then land those powerful strikes, not so much like a brawler, but like a very powerful and technical boxer, or even initiate some of those grappling exchanges. And so that's where Ige has a little bit more of an advantage, that grappling edge. I mean, if he can take the fight to the ground or create some of those scrambles, maybe he could find some opportunities to exploit Woodson's, less tested ground game. I'm not going to say Woodson has no abilities on the ground, but you get what I'm saying. Now, and then all of that on top of Woodson's striking skills and his ability to maintain that distance and just outstrike his opponents consistently, and I think that could maybe neutralize some of Ige's power. This is going to be an amazing fight, guys. If you want some opportunity, Dan Ige is actually not a bad pick, and I know that might be surprising, but it's really not. Now, this next one might cause a lot of people to fast forward through the video, or you might not even watch this fight during the card, but I actually highly recommend that you do check this fight out, because it's one of those fights that you might not expect to be very interesting, but based on these two gals' strengths, it actually is extremely interesting. Now, for the next promising underdog, I did want to highlight for you guys Yan Xiaonan. Now, let me talk to you about her. First, let's just look at her statistical advantage. As you could see on your screen, it's kind of split. You got some green on your left side, you got some green on your right side. Let's talk about it. Now, Yan has a height advantage of 2 inches against Virna. She's a year younger. She lands 2.9 more strikes per minute, so she has that volume in her back pocket. She has a 7% higher striking accuracy, a 3% better striking defense, and a 40% better takedown defense. All things considered, 41% probability of victory. Prediction models liked her a little bit more. They give her a 43% probability of victory. That never hurts that the stats are, in agreement overall. But here's the thing. Yan at that 41% mark, at that plus 124 or so. That's not bad at all, guys. Let's take a look at her record real quick, and I'll back it up. She's won 19 fights. She's finished 47% of them. She's had 12 fights in the UFC. And I know maybe you haven't been keeping up with her. Maybe you haven't watched all her fights. I totally understand. A lot of people are just entering into UFC. No hate. It's fine. She's had 12 fights in the UFC. Guess how many she's won? She's won 9 of those, guys. 9 of those 12 UFC fights. That's very impressive, especially as the competition continues to grow. Now, recently she's won 3 of her last 5 fights, and she's had great experience just in this stage of her career. She's only 35. I mean, I know she's dwindling down her professional fighting career, but she's pretty much at her peak. You could make that case. And she is coming off of a win into this specific fight. Last time she lost was back in April of 2024, so she's had plenty of time to learn from that and continue to improve overall. Let's talk about what Yan does well that I think really shakes up this fight. And if you were kind of leaning towards Yan, use this as a little bit more of a confidence boost in the fact that I do recognize that she can pull off an upset. Now, Yan, she does have some striking expertise. And when I say the word some, I mean a lot. I mean, she's very dynamic as a striker, very technical as a striker. In fact, she has a background in Sanda, and I'm probably not pronouncing that right, guys, but what that is Chinese kickboxing. That's extremely intense stuff if you look it up. She has that speed, that precision, high volume. Those combinations are insane, and she uses it very well to control the pace of her fights. She has a very high significant strike percentage rate, great accuracy as well. It's going to overwhelm anybody that faces her. You have to be very high level to defeat someone like this. Her striking defense is also really good, and that makes her deadly. She also has good takedown defense overall, as you could see in the numbers, but even just the way that her fights play out, it's going to be very hard to control someone like this, and Virna's going to have to be on top of her game to get this done. And on top of all of that stuff, Yan also has great cardio, great durability as a fighter, and she has that knockout power. Keep in mind, I know I said Yan is a volume style striker, but she has actually demonstrated that knockout power. She had that first round TKO victory over Jessica Andrade, which drove everybody insane. Now, full disclosure, guys, I did end up going with Virna here, and here's ultimately why. And I highly recommend you check out my previous video, and if you haven't already, I do recommend liking and subscribing. You're not going to regret it. I try to make everything very efficient. I give you a great summary, and I do give you guys as much information as I can without any of the BS fluff, right? Now, Virna, she has great grappling. That's her strength here. She has a black belt in BJJ. She's one of the most dominant grapplers in the strawweight division. She's had a ton of victories just by submission. In fact, that feeds into her really high finishing rate. It's mostly submissions, which is insane. She has those rear naked chokes, those arm bars. She knows how to control her opponents on the ground, and that is going to be very interesting against Yan, who has that takedown defense. Now, on the flip side, Virna does have that takedown ability. She does pretty good on those takedowns. She's able to use that pressure to bring the fights to the mat, and that's where she's really dangerous. I mean, she's tough. She's also very composed as a fighter, and I like to see that in fighters. I don't like fighters that are too scrambly, if you get what I'm saying, in terms of logical picks. I like watching them because they're entertaining. Don't get me wrong. I like watching all fights, but Virna is one of those people that's very composed. She has a great fight IQ. She has that composure that allows her to execute her game plan. We saw that in specific fights recently, and she just defeats her opponents with that superior grappling. She sets it up perfectly. Very interesting. And also, one thing that I really like about her, she's improved her striking over time. Now, grappling is her strong suit, I'll say that, but she has been working on those Muay Thai skills, and she's been improving them. Very sneaky stuff, and that just makes her a little bit less predictable as she continues in her professional fighting career. So this is honestly a great matchup. I do recommend you watch it just because if you like technical fights or you like striking type of stuff and you just like dynamics, right? This is an interesting fight. I'm very passionate about MMA. I'm very passionate about different fighting styles and seeing them clash. It's way more than just specific fighters and stuff like that. Martial arts is called martial arts for a reason. Each thing is a discipline. Very interesting stuff. I love this stuff. All in all, I wouldn't be surprised if Yan is able to pull off something like a decision victory and pour it on her opponent. I don't see her finishing Virna. I mean, that would be very insane to me. But Yan does have a decent opportunity to pull off an upset here. And if you're looking for one of those fights to roll a dice in, all of the fights that I've said, it just depends on how risk averse you are in, whenever it comes to fights. But these are fights that do have pretty good opportunities of pulling off upset. None of these upsets would shock me. honestly. Now for this next section, let's go ahead and review some of the favorites that I feel pretty confident in overall, at least logically speaking, not emotionally speaking, none of that stuff. No bias in terms of who I want to win, blah, blah, blah. These are going to be your favorites that logically should win, that I feel pretty good in, that I don't think are too expensive based on their skill set. Now, I've talked a lot about their reasons in the previous videos, so I'm really just going to cover their statistical advantages here overall. First and foremost, it's going to be Gene Silva. I mean, his whole team is insanely talented. That press conference was very heated. I love the exchange. I mean, that was a very fun press conference. After a long time, one of the most fun press conferences I've seen. I definitely recommend you guys go and check it out. I mean, it was very interesting. Seeing his dynamic and Bryce Mitchell, them going at it. And then randomly you have Diego Lopes going at it with Yair Rodriguez. Not randomly. I mean, obviously there is a backstory there. But check it out, guys. It's entertaining stuff. This one I do recommend you guys go watch it. I normally don't, have a strong recommendation, but this one was entertaining. So let's talk about this fight, right? Gene Silva, he fights with the Fighting Nerds. It's this very analytical and technical group. They're doing very well. They're absolutely killing it in the UFC. He's part of that group. He trains with them. And so a lot of their skill bleeds over to him. A lot of his skill bleeds over to them. They do very well. Then you got someone like Bryce Mitchell. So Gene Silva, in terms of statistical advantages here, he's 2 years younger than Bryce, right? He lands about 2.95. That's pretty much 3 more strikes per minute. He has a 7% better takedown accuracy and a 47% better takedown defense. All things considered, after reviewing both of these guys, not only statistically, but rewatching a lot of their fights and just making note of their stylistic advantages and the way that they flow in fights, their strengths and their weaknesses, I ended up giving Silva about a 69% probability of victory. Prediction models gave him a 65, so it's good to see that confluence, right? All in all, I think he's a great favorite to kind of side with. Bryce Mitchell looks very heated, but here's the thing, guys. I've done this for a long time. I've studied MMA. I've watched it thoroughly. Don't fall victim to some of these press conference antics. Just because you see a guy staring at a guy with a lot of anger, aggression, or heat, or he's seeking vengeance, or he's, kind of angry because things have gotten under his skin, don't just automatically think he's going to win. Stick to logic. It's the same thing that I do whenever it comes to investing. Stick with logic. Don't be the emotional guy. I know that there's a lot of emotions, as there is in this sport. It's the most emotional and technical driven sport. It's one of the best. It's actually the best sport in my opinion. But I say all that to say, keep in mind the skill set that Bryce Mitchell has and the weaknesses that Bryce Mitchell has, and then the strengths that Gene Silva has. I'm not saying Bryce Mitchell has a 0% chance of pulling off a win. Sometimes the other guy wins and then you guys are like, oh wow, how did you give the other guy a 65% chance of victory or a 69% chance of victory? Well, keep in mind the other guy has a 31% probability of victory. You flip a coin with those odds, sometimes you're going to get, actually 31% of the time, you might get the other side of the coin. So don't get it twisted, guys. Ultimately, Gene Silva is the more technical and skilled fighter. That's just the valid truth at the end of the day. He's proven it. It is what it is. Bryce Mitchell has his own set of skills. He can pull off an upset. I just don't think it's logically possible. I don't think it's logically going to be done. We're ultimately going to find out tomorrow. But again, this segment of the video is to highlight favorites that are not too expensive and that I think statistically and stylistically have the best opportunity of getting it done. Man, I love talking about fights, guys, and maybe you guys disagree with me on some things. That's totally fine. At the end of the day, we're all just fight fans. We love watching fights. We love watching MMA. So, I mean, let me know. It's fine to agree to disagree, guys. I'm not one of those guys that puts his opinion out there and says, this is the truth. I think that's the dumbest thing on the planet. You put your opinion out there, and I like to back it up with some analysis and stats and, stylistic things that I've observed and researched that I took the time out to do. But I also respect your guys' information, your value, your opinions and stuff like that you bring to the table. And sometimes you guys actually inform me of stuff, and I really appreciate that. I love this community. So feel free to let me know what you guys think about these fights and what your take is, and just your opinions in general. I love hearing all of it. So the next fighter that I want to highlight for you guys, a favorite that I think is going to get it done, and I like where he's priced, it's going to be Yair Rodriguez, right? Now, Rodriguez, he has a height advantage of 6 inches. It was very evident when those guys faced off. He's 5 years younger than Patricio here. Patricio's strong. He has great experience, but Yair, I mean, he has that reach advantage of 6 inches. Let's talk about his stats real quick. He lands 1.8 more strikes per minute. He has a 5% better striking accuracy, absorbs 0.44 less strikes per minute, lands 0.09 more takedowns on average with a 9% better takedown accuracy, while also landing 0.1 more submissions on average. Great stats. I mean, take a look at your screen for a second. All green on the left side except for striking defense, but even that's pretty close. And then takedown defense, I will say Patricio has pretty good takedown defense on paper. But again, Patricio is someone who's coming over from a different promotion, so keep that stuff in mind. Now, I think Yair Rodriguez, all things considered, has a 65% probability of victory in my humble opinion, but I'll talk about the stylistic things he does well. I'll summarize it, right? He's a very dynamic striker. He's very creative with his striking. One of those fighters that's very entertaining to watch. I will say that. I don't give that title out frequently, but Yair Rodriguez is an entertaining fighter. Even at the very last second, he can throw something like a crazy elbow and knock someone out, which he literally did. So he also has a great reach advantage. He always has that submission threat in his game. Great cardio, great movement. Then you got someone like Patricio. He has great power overall, strong finishing ability, very versatile fighter himself, someone who carries a lot of experience. I mean, he has like over 40 professional fights, keep that in mind, and great takedown defense as well. But ultimately, I think this fight boils down to distance management for sure, striking volume versus power, and I think that striking volume based on Yair's game plan and the way he executes, I think that's going to win. And then those ground game dynamics that might play a role as well. All in all, I do expect Yair Rodriguez to get it done. I do feel pretty confident in him overall, and I think he's priced pretty decently as well. So the next favorite that I want to highlight for you guys, and I do want to speed this up because I don't want you guys to sit through an hour video, especially on this second video of the week. That first video, it does have to be long because it's a huge breakdown. It's a logical breakdown, but this one, it's to highlight value, right? So it's going to be Michael Olszewski. Let's talk about Michael here. He lands 2.93 more strikes per minute. He has a 2% better striking accuracy, an 8% higher takedown accuracy, and an 8% better takedown defense. All things considered, I gave this guy a 66% probability of victory. I think he's a great favorite to feature. I do expect him to go in there and get the job done here. I don't expect Cedric Dumas to be able to pull off an upset, honestly, just based on stats, based on style more than anything, based on both of these guys' strengths and weaknesses. It's no shock to me at all. Michael gets the job done. All right, so let's keep the ball rolling here. We have the next favorite that I want to feature. It's going to be Suma Derji, and I'm probably butchering his name. Just bear with me, guys. I mean, take a look at your screen. All that green on the left side, and it does translate to the way he also executes in fights as well. The guy has a 3-inch height advantage. He has an 8-inch reach advantage. He lands 2.4 more strikes per minute, has a 20% better striking accuracy, and he also absorbs 0.23 less strikes per minute with a 9% better striking defense. By the way, those stats being paired together, that is absolutely crucial. That's a huge plus in general. It just works out very well when you consistently average better on those pairs of stats, trust me. Now also he has a 16% better takedown defense, and all things considered, I gave Suma Derji a 67% probability of victory. I do expect him to get the job done, honestly. I feel pretty confident about that. I don't see Mitch Raposo being able to pull off an upset here, so that's the bottom line. Now the final favorite that I want to feature before I break down logical bets for this card, it's going to be Marco Tulio. Now Marco, he does land 2.02 more strikes per minute. He absorbs 3 less strikes per minute, and he has an 11% better striking defense. Great stats paired together. It plays out very well in fights as well. I like the strengths that Marco has coming into this fight. 13 wins, only 1 loss. And then you have Gore, who has 6 wins, 2 losses. I think this one is fairly obvious, if I'm being honest. I'm thinking Marco Tulio gets the job done, and that's the bottom line. I think he's a great favorite to feature as well. All right, let's talk bets, guys. These are going to be very logical bets that I could see playing out. I give you guys some options depending on which guy you go for. Sometimes I give you options for both guys. At the end of the day, this is based on logic. This is based on statistics. This is based on stylistic strengths and weaknesses that each guy brings to the table. This is, the final cherry on top of all my research and all the work that I put in. I'm sharing it with you guys. Here we go. For the main event, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. I actually skipped that one because there is a counter argument for any side or any prop bet that you take. I did not want to recommend you guys something that I didn't have a lot of confidence in. So let's go to that co-main event, Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. If you want to play it safe, and generally you're going to see the safer stuff on the left side and then you're going to see some of the more risk stuff on the right side. So it just depends on how risk averse you are, but I give you guys some options. Let's talk Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. I do not expect that fight to go the distance. Let me be extremely honest with you guys. Take a look at how many rounds that fight is. Take a look at both of these guys' strengths, right? I don't expect that fight to go the distance at all. So if you want to play it safe, not distance. If you want to roll the dice a little bit, guys, take the under rounds and you decide how aggressive you want to go with that. But that's the logic for that fight. Let's talk Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva here. I wouldn't be surprised if Silva gets that KO/TKO he's been talking about because he has the skills to back it up. Watch his previous fights. Look at his training. Look at who he's training with, guys. Do your research, you know. I do my research and you guys can trust me, but I'm also, you know, I talk logic, right? I put the work in, trust me. Silva via KO/TKO. Or if you want to play it a little bit safe, take that fight not going the distance. Let's say that you took a look at that press conference and you kind of like the heated emotions, and for some reason, whatever reason, your bias gets the best of you and you think Bryce Mitchell will somehow take over the skill of Silva. Okay, fine. Then take the fight not going the distance, guys. Use your logic here. Take any of the under rounds depending on how much you're trying to roll the dice, right? Let's move on. Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio here. Now, Rodriguez via decision, that's going to be the logical way to go. But if you wanted to play a little bit neutral or you want to pair that with anything, you could take the fight going over 1.5 all the way to the distance, just depending on how much risk you want to take. Let's continue. Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. I don't see that fight going the distance. I think we're going to have a banger pay-per-view based on both of those guys' skills and their weaknesses. Someone's going to get dropped or someone's going to get finished, guys. I don't see that fight going the distance. You could also take the under rounds if you did want to, you know, roll the dice a little bit more. I would skip Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. Trust me when I say that. I mean, that fight could be a toss-up. Like I said, we talked about it earlier in this video. Skip that fight. Let's go to Yan Xiaonan versus Verna Jandiroba. We have Jim frickin' Miller versus Chase Hooper. That's a great fight because you got a veteran versus someone who's up and coming. And I mean, I respect both of them, right? You could take Hooper via submission. That's kind of his specialty. Do your research here, but Hooper via submission is the logical pick. Now, you could also, if you did want to play it neutral, keep in mind Jim Miller is one of those guys. He's kind of scrappy. He goes in there. Sometimes he gets the job done, and he does pull off upsets. Then you could play it safe, guys. Take the fight not going the distance. Take any of the under rounds, because I don't honestly see that fight going the distance. Let's talk Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa. That fight, I kind of expect Erosa to get the decision victory. If you did want to play a little bit more neutral, you could take over 1.5 to the distance. Let's talk next fight, Cedric Dumas versus Michael Olajejek. I would expect Olajejek to get the KO/TKO just based on his skills and a bunch of other research, right? And some of Dumas's weaknesses. If you did want to play it safe for whatever reason, if you like Cedric just because, I don't know what, but you could take the fight not going the distance or the under rounds. That would not be bad at all. Let's go down. We have Suma Derji versus Mitch Raposo. Honestly, that one is pretty basic. You could take the over 1.5 to the distance, just wherever you feel comfortable there in terms of the fight. Just depends on how much risk you want to take. Then we have Gore versus Marco Tulio. Now, in that fight, I expect Tulio to get the KO/TKO, if I'm being honest. He was featured as one of my favorites. I think he was the very last one, right, that we just talked about. You could also take that fight not going the distance or the under rounds. I really don't think that fight goes the distance. And last but not least, guys, we have Nora Cornell versus Haley Cohen. I would take Cornell via decision if you are going for her. There is a very slight chance that Haley does pull off an upset, if I'm being honest with you guys, just based on my research and things about her. So in case you did want to play that one safe, and full disclosure, I love being transparent with you guys, you could take the over 1.5 to the distance. That's never a bad bet in general with women's MMA. If you look at the stats, that ends up, cashing in more times than it doesn't. So just keep that in mind. Do your research. You guys know I do a ton of research. I strictly go off of logic. I do my analysis. You guys already know. And if you're new, please like and subscribe. I really, really thank you guys for just showing your continuous support and bringing community to what I enjoy the most, which is MMA. I love hearing from you guys. I love reading each and every one of your comments. You guys are the reason that it just brings me back every single week. It brings me back to the channel. You know, you guys make me do the research, and I enjoy doing that research for you guys. No matter how busy life gets, this is the part of my week that I enjoy doing the most and sharing with you guys, and I appreciate you guys. Hopefully we can grow this community, grow the channel. Help me out. Please like and subscribe. Help grow this channel. I would really, really appreciate you guys. You know, it would make all my efforts really worthwhile. Thank you guys again. I hope we have an absolute banger card. UFC 314. Let me tell you guys, I have not been excited for a UFC pay-per-view for a while. And so UFC 314 Miami, it's bringing a lot of excitement back. Hopefully you guys are excited, and hopefully you guys have had a great week leading up to UFC 314 tomorrow, and hopefully it is the event that we all truly want it to be. I want some good storylines, I want some great fights, all of the above, right? I hope we get it tomorrow. Thank you guys, and until the next one, see you guys. Let's play the conclusion. And with that said, that wraps up this video. I really appreciate you all for watching and being so supportive as always. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and check out that Patreon if you want to support me through there as well. There's a $10 a month contribution tier and a $20 a month premium tier, which includes early results, picks, and bets, and also includes premium data, analysis, and stats as well. Your support helps keep me encouraged and motivated to continue running all of this data and analysis for you guys and providing you guys all these insights. So thank you once again, and as always, see you guys in the next one.